Welcome to this evening's small business workshop called Going Digital, the first of a series of small business workshops taking place throughout this month of October, presented in partnership with Meridian Credit Union. My name is Mishka Balzum, and I will be your moderator for the next 90 minutes. Small businesses across Canada make up or employ about 11 million Canadians, accounting for about 55% of our gross domestic product in Canada. And the interesting fact is they're totally incremental and incredibly important to businesses. But what is also a really interesting fact is when times get tough, when recovering from the last three recessions, when we take a look at that time, 85% of net job creation in the first 2 years of recovery took place among these businesses. Small businesses more than ever are most important to our economy, and I'm really pleased to see on how many small business owners actually have joined us this evening. So thank you for all that you do and for the community. It is really greatly appreciated. COVID-19 brought to light that one of the biggest challenges identified by this sector has been focused around communication. Internal and external stakeholders and how to sell, how to boost sales, how to connect with customers. In times like this, it is imperative to communicate with customers, investors, suppliers, business partners, and employees to share compassion, show responsiveness, and to demonstrate strong leadership and innovation. Much of what we have seen throughout the last 8 months. And this is why this evening's workshop is so important. While we are living in a very noisy marketplace right now, how can we make sure that your message gets heard and will be heard by your desired audience? And it ultimately will result in that what you would like to see actually happening within your business and the growth that you would like to see. But before we start with the workshop, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Stephen Otten, who is the Regional Vice President for Business Banking at Meridian Credit Union, and who will give his opening remarks. Stephen?
Great, thank you, Mishka. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the GNCC for putting this fantastic workshop series together. It is the first of 4 that we will be having over the course of this month in October, Small Business Month, which is a time that we spend give it a little bit of extra special attention to our small businesses throughout the community. Meridian is very proud to be the presenting sponsor of this workshop, along with the 3 upcoming ones over the course of this month. So stay tuned and check out the GNCC website for the next 3. They're going to be as exciting as this one. Meridian recognizes that small businesses are a very important part of the community here in Niagara, and for that matter, across the province. Meridian's business banking team here in Niagara is over 40 people strong. And that means that we have a breadth of experience our business members are looking for. As the saying goes, we mean business here at Meridian when it comes to small businesses. I have the privilege of helping kick off this event today, but rest assured, you're not stuck with me for the whole show. I'm just not your guy when it comes to digital. Let's be honest, the fact that you can hear me on Zoom call today is as digital as it gets for me. And that's only possible because I received a tutorial last week on this. So when I think of digital, I think of things like technology, or just a new way to engage with customers, or maybe a whole new way of doing business. It's taking a step back from your business and asking, is there a more efficient or better way to do this? It's about being creative. Well, I'm already lost, so I'm tapping out. Let's get on with the real program and hear from the experts from Giant Shoe on what it means to go digital. Okay, just a minute. How do I do this? I got to pass this mic over. I'm just kidding. Over to you, Mishka.
Thank you so very much, Stephen. And thank you for all that Meridian Credit Union does actually for small businesses in Niagara specifically, but across our province and our country. It is remarkable. We couldn't do it without a partner like you by our side. And on that note, it is my great pleasure this evening to introduce you to Brad Moore, who is the CEO, and Rachel Dedinsky, who is the Marketing and Digital Media Specialist at Giant Shoe Creative Agency. By the way, I love the name. The agency offers strategic planning, production, and creativity and innovation when it comes to interactive marketing services. Everything from brand development to media creations, website design, graphic design, and so much more. Rachel and Brad, thank you for being with us, and we're looking forward to this workshop. But before we get started, I just thought I'll let everyone here who has joined us this evening just give you a little bit of an update overview of the format for today. So in the next 40 to 45 minutes, Brad and Rachel will take over with the presentation. During that presentation, if you have any questions, we encourage you to utilize the chat function. We likely will not get to those questions until the end of the presentation, but please rest assured that we will get to them at that time. At that time also, during the question period, you also have the opportunity to ask us directly, and that is by utilizing the hand function that is directly next to your name. And that indicates to us that we can unmute you. We will unmute you so that you can ask a question directly. But if you have any questions, just send us a quick chat and we hope to help you out. And on that note, let me pass it over to you, Brad and Rachel, and we're looking forward to the presentation and equally as much to the dialogue that will follow it.
All right, thank you, Mishka, and thanks, Steve, for introing. So I'm Brad Chu, and this is Rachel here, our marketing and digital media specialist. You won't have to look at our faces this whole time. We're gonna do a screen share here. All right, so yeah, marketing 101, then social media, e-commerce. The reason we're gonna go in this order is that each of these levels sort of dictates the next. So we wanted to give an overview, and in this first section, we're probably gonna say a lot of things that you know, but it's really just get us all on the same page so we don't skip ahead. We want all of you to get as much as you can out of tonight. Let's see here. Oh, animations. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to start off just by talking about your target market. A lot of businesses starting out, you know, we'll ask them, who's your target market? Well, anybody. I want to sell to everyone. Everybody who wants to buy from me, I'm happy to sell. You're in business. But that's not really what target market means. We want to identify your target market because it's really your customers who buy from you the most often, connect with you the most. They're your ideal client. So when you put your efforts into marketing, you want to talk to them the most. It's the lowest effort for you with the highest yield, and that should be your goal as a business. Now, it's not about excluding people from buying your product or service, but it's really just about your efforts, putting them in the best spot.
So how do you define your target market and really hit that bullseye? So you need to think and reflect on who your customer is. So how old are they? Where do they live? What are their general interests? How much money do they have to spend on your product and service? What stage of life are they at? Just kind of basic guidelines to navigate who your target market is and who you're going to be speaking to. Some brands go as far as creating in-depth consumer profiles. So not only thinking about the demographic factors, geographical factors, psychographic and socioeconomic information, but even diversifying and dissecting, like, are they introverted? What do they do on their Sunday mornings? What are their frustrations and pain points? So if you understand your consumer more, you can understand how to think like them and look at their behavior so then you can market to them.
Yeah, and to me, it's all about energy. We've got only so much, and as a business owner, there's thousands and thousands of things on your plate. So just by identifying this, you can really free up more of your time or your energy. Like, it's really your most valuable resource. Like, for instance, we're in fruit country. If you're running a fruit stand, you'd understand that most of your customers are probably on the weekend driving around. Sunday drivers, they're the most likely to stop in. So really, you can dig into what are the habits, who goes for those drives, what are their interests, and really target them rather than trying to attack the Monday morning commute crowd to sell your fruit. It's just really about putting all of your energy into having the most impact.
So let's talk about positioning for a second. So as we know, there are a lot of companies, a lot of products, and a lot of marketing noise that goes on, despite what market or industry that you're in. So by defining your audience, and despite saturated markets and heavy competition, you need to lean into your points of difference. So what sets your business apart from your competitors?
Yeah, so this is positioning. So once you sort of know who you're talking to, we want to see there's a lot of other people in the market doing what you do, I'm sure, but there are differences, and positioning is really your way of seeing how you do something differently, and then talking to your audience about that. We downtown here, we've got Beechwood Donuts, and that's not to say that Tim Hortons isn't also on every other corner of the world. So that didn't discourage them from wanting to make donuts. They're doing it in a different way with a different passion and a different mandate. And people who value that, those ideal customers of theirs, they flock there for that specific reason. It's really important to differentiate yourself for those reasons. So you're not competing for the same customer. You're really competing for somebody who values something differently that you're bringing to the table. And that's what positioning is. It's really identifying those things. So here we've got a bit of a list, or a checklist that you can understand the key benefits of positioning. So yes, it focuses you on a specific market. When you provide a limited set of services to a limited audience, your marketing becomes more powerful and effective. You're perceived as a high value expert. And as we all know, if you're high value and you're expert, you can charge a little bit more too, which is fantastic for a small to medium business, rather than just trying to always be cheaper. It clarifies how you're different from competitors. I'll just skip through some of these because we've got a lot of stuff we want to go over today. Number 3, it shows how to win new clients. Positioning arms your business development team with critical arguments they can use in nurturing and closing processes. It drives creative decisions. So again, the more clarity you have about who you are, it really directs which direction you're going to go. It's like, if you don't know your position, it's like getting in the car and not really knowing where to drive, and you just kind of go around town for a little bit. It's much better if you kind of have a destination. And number 5, it drives service development and pricing decisions. So yeah, knowing how you compare to your competitors helps you decide what new services to offer and when. Are you positioned as a source of innovative services, a low-cost provider, a specialist or generalist? The answer to these questions can affect what services you offer and how to price them. So we've got another handy-dandy blue slide here for you.
So the easy way to get into your customer's mind is to be first. Obviously, that might be easier said than done. And if you can't be first, then you need to find a way to position yourself against whoever is. So always think about the why. Why should consumers choose you? What do you do differently, and why do you do it differently? So always lean into that. It's not necessarily about access to the thing. We can order anything at any point in time, 24/7 in this day and age. It's about positioning your brand as an expert or a resource in your field.
Yeah, I can speak to even here at our agency. We have graphic designers, and working with artists, every artist has a different sort of talent or style or take, and they all really have something that they love to do the most. Rather than being generalists, we really try to find out what people are most passionate about and what they're going to over deliver and put everything they have into it. And once they understand their position, even within our industry, we know who to go to for what. And that just transcends the market. It doesn't matter what you're in. So here we go. These are different types of positioning that can help you. So this is the checklist. So number 1, cost-driven positioning. That's sort of it's one of the defaults, but it's not great. You have to be really, really big and scalable. Like you're the Walmart. You have to have a lot of buying power if you want to be the cheapest. And it's also not very lucrative. I mean, somebody else can come along with more money or more connections and just really take your position away from you. So that is usually one we try to avoid suggesting to people. Number 2 is niche service specialization. We love this one. So in this strategy, you focus on offering a service that is not widely available through competitors. That makes sense. And in Niagara, small to medium businesses, this is the most common type of positioning that's going to last for you. It's really identifying really within that what you are. Number 3, industry specialization. The implication of industry specialization is that your company has deep experience working with similar businesses. If I'll go back to a graphic designer, specialize in restaurants, you're going to have more precise thinking and really evolved process of creating things within that industry. If you want to position yourself as a designer for restaurants are more likely to use you. It's something Canadian too that's really interesting. So Canada as a whole, being next to the United States, which is much larger and has massive buying power and way more people, Canada has sort of built an identity around being a specialist, and that's how we've competed in North America. Bring in the Canadian. He does this one thing really well. He's an expert. He's a red seal in a trade or something like that. So we've actually, as a culture, come to expect and really value specialization within industries and within different trades. Number 4 is role-focused specialization. We help CEOs succeed. So if you really know who you want to target and who you want to work with, if you're a leadership coach or something like that, you're really going to understand the stresses and the problems that a CEO usually has a challenge with, or maybe you work more with teams, like really talking specifically who you want to target. And number 5, quality of service. Now this belongs right up with number 1 as really not great type of positioning to jump off with, because again, it's not really lucrative. Everybody comes to the table saying we're the best or highest quality or all of those things. Like everybody can claim them. Everybody wants to claim them. They don't hold a lot of value. So I would really suggest within the 2, 3, and 4 there, if you're going to choose a position within your business, to really think about those ones. If not, 1 and 5 are always there for you. All right, so here's the important thing about positioning. You can only mean one thing in the mind of your consumers, so choose strategically. Now, there are exceptions to this, but it's really just a rule of thumb. It's an age-old notion within marketing. So if you think of, I'll list a bunch, but I'll start by the company Procter and Gamble. They make hygiene and a lot of products, but they know this, and they've created separate brands for each product, so that when you think of the brand, you think of the product, you think of them immediately. So if I say, I'm going to go get some Scope, or I'm going to get Kleenex, I'm going to go get some Crest, some Kraft Dinner. What I'm really saying is macaroni and cheese or tissue, and that's people building really strong brands to mean one thing in the mind of their consumers, so that it just becomes synonymous. That's the goal. That's amazing when you can reach that level. And a nice story I like is the Heinz. So if I were to say to you, what does Heinz mean to you? And I'm guessing you're going to say ketchup. But there was once upon a time where Heinz was actually the leader in pickles. They're the number 1 pickle company. And, they decided they would grow. They came up with this amazing 57 recipe for ketchup. And they decided to go after the ketchup market. Now, they did it really well, but what happened in that process, they made the transition, but they lost the pickle market. They changed who they were in people's minds. They didn't occupy 2 places. And I think it wasn't long before Vlasic or somebody took over that place in people's minds as like the best pickle that you can get. So yes, one thing, choose strategically. Who are you going to be? So here is the position process. I promise you, I'm closing up on position soon. This is the process. I believe everybody's getting this slideshow afterwards, so you don't have to remember all this. But number one, establish your goals. So we went over that. Who are we talking to? What do I want to do? How do I do it differently? So researching your target clients and competitors. Then you need to do these three things. You need to identify your differentiators, and they need to be all three of these. They need to be true, okay? It's not good to really stake your claim on something that is false. You'll be found out, and that's no way to grow a company. Number two, it needs to be provable. You can't just make a claim that really doesn't, if you can't prove it, there's no point plastering it all over billboards and everything. And number three, it needs to be relevant to your target audience. So, I don't know, earlier I was talking about running a fruit stand at the side of the road. If I said, guess what my position is? I'm the tallest guy at every fruit stand. It really doesn't matter to anybody. They don't care. That's not why they're there in the first place. So it's not a really good differentiator. So once you've figured those three things out, you craft your brand positioning statement, your name, what you do, who you serve, why clients choose you, and then that very important proof piece. That's not it. The next thing you do is you run with it. But you start telling absolutely everybody this is who you are and this is why they should shop with you or buy your services. Now we've got it's story time. Now it's not always about being number one. So we've all heard of Uber, but I'm sure we've also all heard of Lyft. So there can be a big industry that you're in. Success isn't always being the biggest. Being number one and the biggest is a great place to be until it's not. It can involve educating the market, which can be very, very expensive to teach somebody. Imagine being Uber first on the market when everybody was used to taking cabs and not sure if this is illegal, is this safe? A lot of money spent to just change culture and get them used to ride sharing. You got to innovate that technology and operating in such a scale that systems are difficult to change or maneuver. So being number one also comes with sort of a target on your back. So it's important to explore the benefits and success of simply being number two. So a strategic position as number two may be that you're smaller, more agile. You can find your position in simply solving for smaller parts of the market that number one cannot afford to pay attention to. There may be billions of dollars to be made as number one, but that doesn't mean you can't thrive with millions as number two. There's a little Uber story. I'll give this one to Rachel, Wicked Crisps.
So this example comes from the world of snacks. Wicked Crisps. Basically, if I were to ask any one of you to name me 3 chip brands that aren't owned by Frito-Lay, I can't even do it. Probably couldn't come up with any, because imagine trying to tap into such a saturated market as chips. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chips out there. So a man named Phil wanted to find a way to cut through this monopolized market of chips and snacks by coming up with the concept of Wicked Crisps. So he knew his target consumer wanted to have it all. They want to still be healthy, but snack on something every single day and have the duality of the two. So he came up with this concept. So deliciously deceptive nutrition. So this concept identifies positioning because they embrace the duality and hit a position in the market that was untapped. So they would market to gyms, they'd market to yoga instructors to kind of find that twofold approach to finding their own position, their own spot in the market. They defined who they were, they found that edge, and they leaned into why are we different than the others.
Yeah, and they also flipped the script. So they, instead of marketing to a great snack to stay home and watch movies to, and the junk food eaters, instead of being a healthy alternative to those scenarios, they marketed to people who were already super healthy, who wanted something sort of in the snack world. So totally different people that you're talking to, marketing to, and their whole brand, Wicked Crisp, They leaned into the idea of breaking the rules and sort of doing something, I don't know, naughty in your healthy routine. And it's just really brilliant. All right, so Lightspeed Focus. I believe this is the last little bit on positioning. So most companies are poorly positioned in the marketplace. They believe that they can get more clients by opening their arms wide to everybody. The broader their reach, the more business will float their way. It sounds beautiful, but that's not really what happens. When buyers look around and see awkwardly splayed arms everywhere, they have nowhere to gravitate. That's why having a brand positioning strategy is so important. It gives your prospects something to get more interested in and will ultimately convince them to buy from you. Your target audience will find you many times more fascinating than a generalist firm because you have the specialized expertise they need. And as a specialist, you can often charge more. That's good business. So now I'd like to introduce you to tone, language, mood.
So now that we've talked about positioning for a very long time, you know your company position, you know who you're talking to. What does that equal? That equals your messaging style. So your tone, your language, your mood, how you're talking to your audience. When we know who we want to talk to, we have a better idea of what to say and how to say it. So just tone of voice, like how does your brand communicate? Is it somber? Is it excited? Different characteristics to your brand persona, and that can bleed throughout all kinds of messaging, from your website to your social media to a flyer that you're handing out to things that exist in your store. It's who you are as a brand.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody's seen that, I don't know, YouTube thing where this restaurant, they're super rude to everybody, and that's what sets them apart. That language and that tone, they've built that into what's going to really separate them. And people go there for that. They think it's hilarious. I don't know if I would go there, but it was a way that they differentiated themselves and even went a little viral. So that's a good example. And this is something we've all heard. I can't say. Consistency is confidence. So once you know who you are, you know how to speak to people who are most likely to buy from you, and you keep that messaging up time and time again, over and over and over. First of all, it's based in truth. It's based in who you are. It's based in what you want to be and why you're in business in the first place. We've just articulated it, and that's the messaging that we send to everybody. Now it's consistent, and that gives people confidence in what you're selling, because it just has this genuine breath to it. And that's our goal. When we're telling people things, we want them to believe us. The best way to do that is to have it actually be true.
So we've talked about your target audience and positioning and how to talk to that audience with your position, but always remember your brand is what other people think of you. It's not just your logo, it's not just your website, it's not your tone. These are things that help define and help direct what people think of your brand.
And this is something everybody kind of sees at one point, but like just even color psychology. How do you know what colors to choose for your logo or your branding, your posters? Just whatever looks good. It's probably not going to fly as effectively as if you actually already know the message, the tone, who you're talking to, and really what we want to say. The color can reflect that. So here's just a bunch of things. There's a reason why when navy is trust, order, loyalty, sincerity, authority, it's the reason why most banks are navy in their color tone. It's not because they didn't have a better idea. It's because it's what works. And same with restaurants, with red. It makes people think of food. It makes people think of hunger and passion. That's why KFC, Wendy's, Pizza Hut, McDonald's, they all use red heavily. And again, it's not because they didn't know any other colors. It's just because it works. And then here we go. Logo salad. So this is how colors define the brand. They define the psychology of the whole thing. Even like shapes. If we want a softer sort of feeling to our brand, if you're a yoga brand or something, and you want to be more aggressive though. You want the really hyper students and people who are really after extreme goals and it's their life. Yoga's their life. We're probably going to go with less of a softer look than you would think for yoga, maybe harder lines, harder angles. It's those kind of decisions that as we know more about who we are and what we're trying to say, the answer is actually dictated by what we've already established. So if everybody wants to stretch their legs now, we can jump into social media. That's just sort of an intro on marketing and how you understand your own company to begin with. The analogy is, you know, the old school way of marketing. You know, if you're going to stand on the corner of the street and start telling everybody who you are, make sure you've got the right message, make sure you're wearing the right clothes, make sure that you've got it together before you show up on the street and start telling everybody. So social media, it's our new street corner. Take it away, Rachel.
So social media, I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, are familiar with what social media is. So welcome to social media marketing. So each social media platform helps strengthen a brand's identity in a unique way. So you need to really hone in on, as we talked about your target market, you need to hone in on what social media platform is best for your business. So if your target consumer is a 17-year-old girl or something like that, you are going to be more prone to go into TikTok or Instagram, and the list goes on. So you just really need to identify who your audience is and where they are going to be. So why is having social media for a business important? So over 70% of Canadians have an account on social media, and they're spending over 3 hours a day on it. And as generations go on, we're spending more and more and more time on our phones. And also it builds brand awareness, brand identity, and it's accessible to the general public. So not just your consumers that already exist in your client base or your community know about you, you can spread the word to many other people. So you're on social. How do we make content that works for you specifically? Number one, we're going to say this word again and again and again, but you need to know your audience. You can't create content that resonates with your audience if you don't know who they are, who you're talking to. So you need to know who you're talking to, and you need to know where they are so you can talk to them. So number two is focus on helping rather than selling. So you need to, this is very important, you need to find a balance in pushing your product or connecting with the customer on social media. So our general rule of thumb is for every 2 posts that you push to advertise a product or service, you need to create 1 post about your audience. Remember, online and digital, even though you are just behind the phone or someone's behind the phone pushing out content, it's still a conversation. Just think, when you have a friend that's just talking on and on and on about themselves for 1,000 years and you're just waiting to get a word in, it's that kind of situation. You need to make sure that there's a discourse and a dialogue online because it's your community and these people are working for you to build your presence and identity.
Right. And there's a confidence that comes along with knowing that you've created a specific product that people want. So if you're actually selling something that they want in a way that they want it, you're really just helping them get what they need. You don't have to sell to them. You already know that they want it because they're your target audience.
So number 3, load your content with emotional appeal, especially in terms of small businesses. I'm sure each and every one of you has such a strong passion for your small business. So you can lean into that, lean into customer testimonial stories, supporting the Niagara community, supporting your community of clients. These are things that will work to foster a community and also build your audience's trust. It also really helps to humanize the brand, even though like a lot of you might just be the face or the person that they come in to see in a way. It just humanizes the brand for people that don't know your brand through and through. And it just engages with your customers' emotions and how they feel about you and how they feel about your products. So number 4, when in doubt, choose visual. Visual content, as in photos and videos, are 40 times more likely to get shared on social media than any other types of content. For example, you go to an Instagram feed, you don't want to see just blocks of text over and over and over again. You want it to be an experience, a visual experience for your consumer, and for someone that just stumbles upon your social media site or platform because they don't know who you are yet and you want to show them who you are.
Yeah, picture is worth 1,000 words.
Sure is. So a question that we get asked a lot. What's more important, to keep a schedule or to have really great content? The answer is both, but also within reason. So you need to find a balance between high quality content and an achievable and realistic quantity of content. We're not telling you to post 1,000 times a day, but you need to make sure that there is a balance. So why are these important? Quality of content maintains audience retention and interest, so you become a resource. It builds your brand as a strong resource or a stakeholder in your area of expertise, and it creates credibility. But quantity also creates credibility. It exposes your content to a greater reach of users. Again, those people that might just kind of be scrolling through Instagram and stumble upon your profile. And it positions your brand as consistent, reliable, and engaged with your audience. So here's a little exercise. These are a couple very large brands. I'm sure initially a lot of you have already identified who these are, but this is just an extraction from some of their social profiles. And off the cusp, you can already get a feeling from each and every one of these. So every single asset is a bigger piece of the puzzle. So brands like Nike, brands like Glossier, brands like Smart Sweets, these are all obviously massive brands, but if I take a little piece of that puzzle out, a little picture, I still feel what the brand's about. I can still identify their brand colors. I can still get that overall feeling when I'm on their page. So you want to get an experience and you want to visually represent what you've worked so hard for to achieve for your brand.
And that's what we had mentioned earlier about consistency. So even just the consistency in the look and feel of everything you're putting out. If all of a sudden Nike put out a picture of what the CEO is having for lunch because you realized he had to make another post because he didn't have anything that day, the wheels are going to fall off the cart. So get a plan, get it together, but most often than not, you need to offer value every single time that you put something out there.
So just a quick little note on aesthetics and branding. So your colors, your brand colors, ensure that they bleed throughout your online presence, and don't be afraid to use consistent accent colors. And what I mean by this is if your logo is black and white, you don't have to make your whole feed black and white, but you can lean into a chosen color, again, color psychology, but commit to that as well. Just so despite your logo and maybe your in-store branding, your audience will still know when they come onto your page who you are and really get a feel for that. Also post types. So define who you are online by narrowing down to a few different post types. So if I'm a restaurant, I know that I'm going to be posting daily specials. I'm going to be posting features, things about holidays, entertainment, obviously when the world allows. But I know already what I'm going to be posting and who I'm about. So just really configure and define what kind of posts you are going to be putting out there as a resource. Also messaging, as we mentioned before, ensure that your tone of voice is consistent throughout your digital presence. So one day you don't start talking in slang and the other day you write 7 novels in your Instagram caption. You need to remain consistent throughout all of your messaging. So a couple best practices that are very helpful. I can't stress this enough, engage. Your community is there. They're there to help you. So reply to all comments on your posts and videos. Don't just leave it. Again, it's a conversation. It's a two-way street. Engage with users online to build that strong community because they're going to work for you when you're not online. So calls to action. Always ask a question. Ask a question in your Instagram caption, like, what's your favorite part about my store? That's just an example, but maybe not that outwardly. And in your Instagram stories as well, use engagement tools. There's so many things. I'm sure you've seen polls or the little question boxes. Just make sure that your audience knows you're there listening to them because they can be a really great resource for you down the road as well. Also posting times. When's your consumer or your customer awake? Don't post something at 4 a.m. if you know everyone's going to be looking at your social from 9 to 5 because you need to be there when they're there. Also, so content marketing, if you are a brand that already has like a blog portion of your website or a content portion of your website, that's amazing. But if it's just kind of existing there and you have no other funnel to show that to a new audience, you can just use your Instagram or your Facebook as a microblog. You can take a quote or an excerpt from those blogs you work so hard on or the content you work so hard on and just ensure that it hits new audiences as well. If you don't have a blog or content portion, that's an amazing tool to integrate into your website. Helps with searchability. So when I'm on Google or a search engine or something like that, it can help you pop up sooner versus other brands. So that's just a fun little tip there. And social media advertising. We won't dive too much into this, but social media advertising, as big of a world as it is, it doesn't need to be scary. Ensure that your Instagram and Facebook accounts are connected. You have your ad manager, and use the information that we've talked about. So your target market, demographic points, interests, all those things that we've explored, those can be targeted in your advertisements. Or you can just start small. Just try boosting a post on Instagram or Facebook. Basically, when you post something, only on average 10% of those people that are following you are going to see that post, which kind of sucks, but the algorithm changes a lot. So even if you're putting $6 or $7 behind a post to boost it, you're still targeting all those people that you want to hit, just like on a larger scale.
Yeah. Those social media platforms are businesses. They're there to make money. So by only showing, a fraction of the people, if those, 10% actually engage, then Instagram or Facebook will say, oh, this is valuable content, and they'll show it to more. And that's how things become viral and really pick up speed. So by boosting it immediately, you're just it's like putting more fuel in the tank to help it generate that organic sort of speed to reach more people rather than having it just die off.
And also with ads, always go visual. Don't really use more than 20% of text in your posts, because it just helps with people. We have short attention spans now. If we see a lot of text, we want something visual that's going to catch our eye immediately. So opt for a video or like a really enticing photo or something of that nature.
Time to stretch the legs again. I think we're doing okay squeezing a lot of content into this this Zoom meeting. So if we need to replay it later at half speed, I'm sure that's doable. Okay, e-commerce. So this is third, because there's, first of all, developing your brand and your customer base is the most important thing. And with COVID and everything, there's a lot less room for error. Everything needs to be strategic now. Everything needs to make sense and have a goal. So that's why we started there. We went into social because that's sort of the next step. And there are a lot of ways to sort of jump into e-commerce through social, just to get introduced into that world. A lot of people just think immediately building a website, but no. If you get a strong following and a strong presence on social media, you can actually begin there. So we're going to go into this next section, expanding into, yes, web development, but also just other options for making more money, having that additional revenue stream. So this is e-commerce 101. So e-retail sales account for 14.1% of all retail sales worldwide. It continues to grow despite economic uncertainty, and by 2023, it's expected that 22% of all retail sales worldwide will be online. That's a recent study from July, so it's COVID relevant. And I think back, so the thing to watch with business is learning curves. So I remember 20 years ago, nobody would really shop online very much. Everyone was hesitant about concerns about security, reliability, a lot of things. And then Amazon came along and they educated the market, and a lot of people overcame that learning curve. And you know where they are now. They're doing all right. With COVID and everything shutting down, it sort of sped up the dependency on digital a lot. And a lot of consumers' learning curve, they were forced to learn how to shop online and how to do certain things to get by. Those people aren't going to forget that skill of how to shop online and the convenience that it is. So if you're in business and just sort of doubling down on your bricks and mortar, you're allowed to do that. but you're missing a massive opportunity. It's yours to miss out on, and it's just going to continue to increase, having that customer base online. Was that the end of that slide? Yes. Okay. So the new consumer. So in the age of the pandemic, continually decreasing attention spans. Like, there's so much content, there's a lot of noise, and a lot of what we've been talking about is how to cut through it with a specific message to a specific person in a specific way. That's the best way to get around these attention spans, because you know you're going to be spending your energy and money on someone who's actually interested. The need for simplified processes, heightened health and safety measures, the general fear instilled in the public, and new ways of shopping online. So e-commerce has never been more important to confront the new consumer. Consumers are likely to keep the behaviors they've adopted amid stay-at-home orders, such as more online shopping and fewer mall visits. I can't remember the last time I was at a mall.
And as the years go on, you want to maintain longevity of your business or your brand. So on average, millennials and Gen Z or Gen X spend 6 or more, definitely more, hours a week shopping online versus baby boomers. And then as the generations go on, less and less. But as, again, you grow as a business, you want to have the audience retention, that consumer retention. So in 20 years from now, everyone that's going to be shopping online and adopting these behaviors, it's only going to increase from there.
Okay, so there's 4 main types of e-commerce models. I think we can skip through past a lot of this, but it's just in here for reference, because I think this deck can be a resource. So there's, you know, B2C, B2B, C2C, and C2B. I'll move on. So this is what I was sort of touching on earlier. If you set up a shop and it's just you, you know, you're going to have limited hours. There is life outside of owning a business, hopefully. You know, you might be 9 to 5 or something. By being available online, your product and service is essentially 24/7 as far as searchability. So when people want to shop, you're there and you have the answer. So if I'm shopping online for, I don't know, light bulbs because one just blew out of my house at midnight, I go online, I can look, I find one right away. If I'm able to click purchase right now and know that it's going to show up, my desperation is gone. My journey is over and I can continue to focus on what I want. So what that immediate online purchase does is it helps close down that sales cycle. It makes it immediate from need to purchase. So you're helping your consumers by offering that. It helps eliminate competition as well, because if you have that strong presence online, people can find you and they can buy from you right away. They're not going to spend maybe, okay, I'll go there tomorrow, and then tomorrow they get busy or distracted. It could be 4 or 5 days till they actually make it into your shop for whatever you were selling. That's a lot of time to look at competitors, look at what else is available, and just, you know, more comparisons. Sometimes they might look for a cheaper option, find it on Amazon, and it could be of lesser quality, and you don't want your consumers to have a lower quality product. And it helps increase brand awareness. You know, you're there, you're front of mind, and it gives you the opportunity to position yourself as the most convenient and reflexive option. So these are locations. So this is what I was talking about. It doesn't all cost money, and it's not all about building your own custom website. Sometimes that is the best option for you, but there are other avenues, you know. So you build your website, you can build a model out of Kijiji. Facebook Marketplace is amazing. Facebook business page, third-party apps, Depop, Poshmark, Etsy. You know, I bought some stuff off at Etsy. Facebook shops, and then new to the world, Instagram shops.
So some of you may have noticed, if you have a business account and on some personals, where your little heart button, where your likes and engagement and everything used to be, it's now a shopping bag. So this is full force. This has been beta tested for many, many years now, but social shopping is very prevalent and something that businesses need to capitalize on, because it's going to be the way of purchasing. You see something on your feed, you want to buy it, you can buy it literally right there. So on Instagram alone, there's 500 million daily active users, and 70% of those users follow a business on Instagram, and 75% of said users would take an action after seeing a business post. So if you're posting your product or your service, a lot of your audience is going to be incentivized to purchase something immediately within the app. So where do you begin? Again, it doesn't have to be scary. You can start small. You can add a few items to your Instagram or Facebook store. And some of the top brands that have been actually using this since the beta test, some of them have seen or reported up to more than 1,400% increased traffic and engagement on their, just as a brand, like in a nutshell, on all their social media platforms, on their website, just all of that engagement and audience and new consumers funneling into their brand. And who doesn't want that? Because you can expand your brand and make more money. And so again, you can start small. If you have, say you own a boutique and you have 5 of your most popular items or something of that nature, a couple sweaters, a shirt, upload those, remember to tag them in your posts, and you can just start to see engagement and then kind of go from there. But it's definitely a very important tool and resource in the digital world that is very new.
Yeah, so hopefully, I think our goal was to demystify some of this world for small, medium-sized businesses. You know, all the answers can't be squeezed into an hour and a half. We are downtown St. Catharines. We are available and happy to help. So just a really big thank you to everybody for tuning in. So I think we can jump over to some questions. I think I saw the chat was a little bit active, so.
Yeah, actually, thank you very much actually to both of you for the presentation. It was, it's always really interesting to hear, and it's always amazing to see how quickly things are changing at the same time too. So I have had, there have been a couple of questions that actually have come in to us either via social media or in advance of this conversation as well. So let me start out with one that had been sent to us, and it's an interesting one. You touched on it, but they asked for more clarity. And this question is asking, where should businesses spend marketing and communication dollars when it comes to digital ad buys, social media content, email marketing? Where should people go? What's the best way to develop a budget around their marketing and communication plans?
So the first thing I'll say is you need to go where your customers are. Okay, so that it's not an easy answer. It's not a one answer for every company. I guess I could ask what your company is, but where do you see most of your happy customers coming from? What age are they? Are they male, female? Do you want to just jump right into that specific example, or we can just?
I think we need to stay more generic because
okay.
Have been sent to us via Twitter, and so the person who had asked us is not here. But I just wanted to mention to all of the people that are actually attending, I wanted to ask a live question. Just use the button beside your name that says that's a hand function that allows you to talk. We will unmute you on our end, and that way you can actually ask the question, which is wonderful too. Or feel free to utilize the chat function and just type in your question on that end, and we will get to it as it is. This particular one, Matt, that I just brought forward was one that actually had been sent to us via social media, but we don't have more information on it. So I was saying, like, how can someone effectively create a budget, and what budget should they look at? If you look at revenues of $1 million, should it be 1%, 5%? What's the formula here?
Generally, growing company, it depends what size you're at. A lot of companies, I like to just say 20%. If you off the top can sort of try to dedicate 20% of your revenue to marketing, that's a good place to start. It's very fluid though. If it's working and it's making you exponentially more money, then the arguments to be made, yeah, let's invest more. But if it's, if it's not working, you find more ways to maybe tighten the strings a little bit. But 20% is usually a good place to start. As far as how much to spend, that's something Rachel tossed over to you.
So digital campaigns in social media marketing specifically, a great average is $20 to $30 a day, and run your campaigns for at least 2 weeks. In terms of the greater picture of where you should spend your dollars, again, 20% is kind of a rule of thumb. It needs to work for your business. If you're a business that's solely digital, you're going to obviously be spending more on Google Ads or Microsoft Ads or social media marketing versus a more traditional business that sees great results in more traditional means of marketing, i.e. flyers, pamphlets, things of that nature. It just really depends on what works for your business and who you're trying to target. Because if my target market is someone that's 70 years old, I'm not going to spend 80% of my marketing budget on advertising on Instagram. You just really need to dissect that target market and understand where your consumer and where your audience lies.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
I appreciate that take on how critical it is to actually look at your audience and to go, as you have said numerous times during the presentation, go to where your audience is. It is so much easier than trying to bring your audience actually to you.
Oh, yeah.
There's another question that has come in, and that's now a little bit slightly different perspective of it. And it's indicating that many organizations have interesting stories to tell, and they truly do. We, on a regular basis at the GNCC, talk to hundreds and hundreds of businesses. And each and every time, I'm actually quite amazed at what an amazing, fascinating story they actually have about the business. And not just about if it's an invention that's there, a new product, a new service. It could even be of a human interest story in others. Do you have any tips on how to pitch a media story? How do we get the media to pick it up?
Yes.
For media relations, creating and growing relationships with the media in Niagara and beyond.
Yeah. So you're talking about PR. How can we get, free publicity? And the way to do that, you need to, every company wants to do that. You're going to come up with a press release. Here's the news, or here's the story. Here's what's happening. This backs up, not even to PR, but even for your own content. It needs to be of value to your customer. So when you're thinking, how do I get something in the newspaper? You need to come up with the angle of, how is it of value to the readers of this newspaper? Or am I just looking for a free advertisement? And, they're really good at identifying what you're after. So if there's an angle, for instance, I'll try to think of something right now, but, restaurants doing takeout. If COVID came and you started to do takeout and you wanted to be in the newspaper about it, it's not a good idea to call the newspaper and say, hey, I want you to tell everybody that I'm doing takeout because I want to make more money. The way to approach the newspaper is, a lot of businesses are struggling right now. This is an adaptation, and I've got the sort of firsthand view experience of what businesses are going through right now. And this is a public interest story. So let's maybe talk to me, maybe talk to some others, and be included in the message. Be included in the story, in the narrative, rather than just trying to sell. And I think that was one of our points earlier, is help. How can you help the readers of the newspaper with what's going on versus just sell them what you're doing?
No, it makes total sense. I think it's something that often we have heard of business shying away from. It's almost there. It's I'm okay promoting it. I'm okay marketing. I'm okay advertising. But to saying that actually this is worth a story is a real different approach to that. It's very different for many of them.
Yeah.
Now, another good question that has come forward, and that's asking, what determines the media market radius that businesses need to focus on? So if I am a retailer, for example, I'm a boutique here in Thorold, what considerations do I need to give to my media market radius that is there? But I need.
Yeah, and it's going to be very specific, but some of the things to consider, how niche you are. If there's no one else really doing what you're doing, say within the Golden Horseshoe, then that's your radius. If there's no one in Southern Ontario doing it and you are available online and you can ship out, then that's your radius. It's how far can you service and how far are you relevant before you're bumping into someone else who's also after those same consumers. If you need to come into the shop or something, or you need to go make a service call, how far are you willing to travel? So it's really, what do you want to do determines how far you should be marketing. Because again, it's not that you're going to turn down business if somebody from Ottawa wants to buy something and has to come to you. But they're not likely to do it. So don't spend money trying to convince them or show them where you are. Unless, of course, you're online and you can ship to them and you're offering something that they can't really get anywhere else. So I guess the short answer, again, would be, how valuable are you to the people in that area? And if it doesn't really weigh out, then save your dollars and spend them closer to you.
This is a question that has come up from one of our attendees, Chris, and I want to just preference this before I get into the question. At the GNCC over the last 8 months, we have put a tremendous effort into supporting people to shop local, use local businesses, shop local, support them because of the impact that it has on our economy. And this doesn't only relate to restaurants, wineries, breweries in those areas, but it has to do with boutiques, it has to be with professional services and others. Really creating an awareness on the economic impact that shop local has, not only during these times, but at any time really. And this is coming to Chris, who's one of our attendees. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. And the question is, what is the best way to convince people to support local small business during COVID times? Sometimes the cheapest is not the best.
No, and I think a key word there is convince. I don't think you really need to, or can sometimes, convince people of things. You need to make them aware. So I think a lot of people who value shopping local and value the economy that way and value the community, they already want to shop local. So you need to make them aware of how they can shop local, versus somebody who's just satisfied with Amazon and that it shows up at their house the next day. Convincing them is going to be a lot of effort, a lot of maybe wasted dollars, rather than just making people aware. So the best thing to do, and I've noticed the chamber doing it, a lot of community outfits, is just really spreading awareness of not just your specific company and how you're a local company and people should shop with you, but band together. There's been initiatives of, here are your local businesses, here are the businesses that support our community. We're community members. We stay in Niagara because we love it. We want to be here, and we are we're involved in the community. We want to support the community, and it's been a struggle to really stay in business, and spreading that message of, now's the time that as businesses are opening up, just please come back. We're here. We're not going anywhere unless we have to close our doors. That's the reason to shop local. The passion right there, and just spreading that message, to me is the best way, rather than convincing. Just find ways of spreading awareness and making it easier for people to do that. Just the last little part on that, one of the things since March, we've been helping a lot of companies just be online, be available 24/7 in the ways that people need them to be. So I don't mind waiting a couple days. One of our good friends, they own the Grove out in Virgil. It's a grocery, and they're small. They're super agile, farm fresh produce, everything that you could want. At a time when grocery store lineups were around the block, they just needed to be online and reach their customers and be available. And we made that happen. They solved very quickly what the bigger guys couldn't, and sort of appease that want to shop local when there maybe what wouldn't have been an option otherwise.
No, I really appreciate your perspective on it, Brad. What we have found internally with the Shop Local one is that there's a certain amount of momentum. Once you build a certain momentum in it, and then there's a significant amount of more sharing going on. And one of the great things that I have found is that when we launched our Facebook page called Naga Shop Local, which is actually powered in partnership with Meridian Credit Union, when we launched it, we found out about so many businesses that we didn't know about, little treasures that are in Waitfleet, in Fort Erie, in Port Colborne, in downtowns and Katzenstratas that people didn't know about. But knowing that enriches not just your overall shopping experience that you have, but enriches the fiber of a community and brings people together. And that is extraordinary. So the more we can do to support it, I think it's going to be critical now, and it's going to be critical in the months to come. And it's really interesting too, because when you take a look at some countries, especially European countries, maybe some Asian ones, there's a lot of pride in supporting your local economy. With all the things that you're buying, it's looked at and saying, how can we support it? And I think it's a good element, especially when it comes to small businesses, in taking a look at that and seeing where do we have the opportunities here to support some entrepreneurs that are our next door neighbors at the same time. There's an interesting question too, and this has been coming up a couple of times, many times actually, in conversations over the past 8 months. And this is the question: how will consumers' priorities have changed just during this pandemic and post-pandemic, and how will that impact our marketing? You had touched on it, and in some ways, a little bit the Shop Local might be something that comes out of these COVID times that we're into. But have you noticed a change in consumer priorities? I know that you spoke a lot about people are shopping more online, the need to go online, the need for regular communication with consumers, different ways of reaching out to them. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely. So people are a lot more frugal, in uncertain times. You're not going to go out there and buy luxury items necessarily. Now, there is a price point. Coffee is a good example. Okay. So things that are, say, under $10, this is a Starbucks model. People love to spend more money on small things that feel luxurious, to treat themselves. So if the economy is bad, people flock to Starbucks because it's a small, affordable way for them to feel special and treat themselves to something. So in consumer behaviors, that is always on an uptick in tough times. And the more, I don't know, maybe buying a new purse or something is maybe down the list. You make do with what you have, but those day-to-day items are top of mind. So I'm not, it's a pretty loaded question, but yeah, people definitely pull back. Necessary items you're trying to find how to get them. You'd love to shop local if you can get it. I noticed with second wave sort of looming, I've noticed toilet paper on shelves for some reason is just scarce again. People need to get that. How can we get that? Shop local toilet paper. Just solve for it. People want it. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there a little bit, but it's unpredictable. People are not going to spend so much on crafted items or like different things like that. Winter's coming.
You know what was interesting too? We've been in touch with the Retail Council of Canada and looking at some of the trends too. This doesn't speak as much to consumer behavior having changed, but just for buying patterns having slightly changed. And during the summertime, one of the big sellers was actually anything recreationally based. Bikes that you had, boats that you had, other things that you had.
Yeah.
Home improvements became key to it. We heard from people when I talked appliances, high-end furniture that's there, because now the snowbirds can't go south. And so they're looking at their own environment and trying to adjust the environment the times that are there. So we're seeing on, as you had mentioned, on the grocery end, on the food, on that spectrum, we see people making changes. But as we can't, book our flights off to Europe and can't find any other way to relax, people are still looking at a way. And now we're spending more time at home, in our home offices, and that's a significant change.
Yeah, more staycation.
Yes.
If we're gonna be here, let's make it. Let's just put it all right here. All your eggs in one home basket.
Let me get a gas heater for my patio so I can extend my life outdoors. Let me get a new barbecue. It's those kind of consumer behaviors that are actually closer to our homes almost than they had previously been. And this likely will be only for a period of time, but it's the immediate one that has come quite as a surprise to many retailers that are there. But it doesn't have overall lasting changes to the pattern when it comes to marketing, but it's an indication because we're also spending more time online. We're looking, we're receiving news, we're more interested in news. I think I've never heard as many people being interested in political decisions and announcements that I've ever seen that engagement at any time prior at any time, actually.
Ever, yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's one thing that I don't think is going anywhere as far as consumer behavior is that reallocation of work-life balance, a lot more appreciation for your own time. People have been forced to have it and they like it. So if your business can improve or help or even position yourself into that sort of silo, I think you'll answer some things that people are looking for.
Yeah, I agree with you. Here's one of the last questions that we have has come forward. In these unprecedented times, how can businesses establish KPIs for their sales and communication strategies? And I think this is a really interesting question. In the past, for example, when people would write a strategic plan of some sort, you could say that often people wrote a 1, 3, 5-year strategic plan for their business. But often they said, really, it has a length and kind of 400 days in the good times before really you needed to review it. Currently, people say that every single strategic plan doesn't have a lifespan for longer than 150 days. And I can tell you 150 days seems very long to me. So here I am, I'm looking at our business, I'm looking at businesses that are there. So what kind of KPIs can I establish when I don't even know what 3 months, 4 months from now look like?
Well, yeah, some of the things we were just talking about, that confidence and really understanding your business and your customers, it is a relationship. And if you think of it, it creates itself a bit of a destination. Now, it may not be a direct path, but you'll always be going in the right direction. So I think everything needs to be fluid right now. As Mishka was saying, even if you know the way you're going, there might be a river in the way and you're going to have to go around it. So being as flexible as possible, and I don't know, sounds weird, but a lot of us we're going with our gut and we're just trying to be good people and good businesses and trusting that that's going to get us there. I don't know if Rachel, you want to add on to it?
Just during these times, obviously it's very hard to keep structure. All of our 5-year plans are out the window. So like Brad said, just really knowing your business and trusting your gut and just going with, if you're a new business, obviously going to be a little bit different if you're just starting out during the pandemic, but just taking notes from previous years and just kind of identifying what the past couple months have been like and try to pull some kind of averages from that if you need like an actual solid number. But I think just putting yourself forward as you believe in yourself and you have that passion, just ensure that that's communicated and shown through every possible way that you can, and that's what's going to get you through.
No, I think you're absolutely right with that. One of the things that has helped us, because it's an unusual time too, and one of the things we've recommended to businesses is make sure that you kind of touch base with other people in your same industry too.
Yeah.
connect with them to seeing what they're anticipating, what are their expectations as they're moving forward. And it doesn't even need to be in our own region. It could be somewhere else in Ontario, Canada. Look outside and seeing what some of the expectations are. And I think that often has helped in planning and moving forward. So, but we are about to wrap up. And one of the things we do at the end of any one of our workshops that we're holding, our webinars, is that we give about a minute or two to our panelists for closing comments. And so, Rachel and Brad, if I can ask you for some closing comments before we wrap up.
Oh, just, this, I really appreciate everybody attending this and the Chamber and Meridian for hosting. I think conversations like this are important. It's conversations like this that are going to get all of us through to the other side. I have a lot of hope for Niagara moving forward. There's a lot of really positive trends happening with even Zoom, with remote working being more acceptable and cluster living sort of not being very appealing these days. There's a lot of people leaving the larger cities and looking for places, and they're coming to Niagara, and with that comes a youthfulness, it comes an energy, it's going to come new businesses, new customers. I think that's something amazing to look forward to, and a reason that we can all stay positive.
And I think that in our Niagara community, we're so blessed to have such a strong and empowering community over competition all the way. We're here to help, and which is amazing to lean on. There's a lot of resources, and it might be scary to have to pivot and adapt during these times because gone is a way of what we know, but lean into that and just know that there are resources, there are different ways to connect with your audiences, and the community that's been with you, they're going to stay with you. So just have conversations with them, appreciate them, and just, yeah. Embrace.
To both of you, on behalf of my colleagues, and a really sincere thank you for being with us this evening. One of the things that you have, or I have been reminded of while listening to this workshop, is that there is an art to communication, and that we have to be willing to explore new ways of moving forward. And I think you've given us a lot of great ideas and new ways of looking at our own communication plans, and communication plans of the people who attended here today. So thank you of sharing all of the wealth of knowledge that you have with everyone who's here tonight. Today's webinar has been recorded and it will be available on our website at gncc.ca. And it will also be emailed to all attendees of tonight's event. Our personal thanks go to Meridian Credit Union for your extraordinary support of small businesses. Please know that you make a difference each and every day to so many small businesses and business owners, and with that, to so many employees of those organizations as well. So, Martin, Rachel, thank you for being with us. And lastly, to everyone here and all participants, thank you for joining us. Please stay in touch, and we wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Thank you.